Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now, students, we are going to start our next discussion regarding the drugs acting on nervous system, that is neuropharmacology. For that, there are some fundamentals which help us to understand this neuropharmacology. In the coming discussion, we are going to see first of all what are the common problems which we usually address, for which we need to know the drugs which will be helpful in those conditions. Obviously, those drugs are acting through some chemicals and neurotransmitters which are normally physiologically operating in the nervous system. Any changes in those chemicals or neurotransmitters may produce some problem. So accordingly, if the probability could decrease, we will increase the neurotransmitter chemicals. If the probability due to increase, we will try to decrease it, and so on. And also we will see what are other conditions in which we can use the drugs which act on nervous system. For example, like the drugs used as general anesthetic, or even drugs used as local anesthetic. Peripheral nerves are a part of nervous system also. Similarly, there may be so many painful states in which we need to know the drugs which will modify the nervous system and make the patient pain-free. Now, the common nervous problems. Obviously, the first one is the psychiatric problem. We also call them as psychosomatic, means although origin is psychiatric in nature, but their effects appear on the body. There may be some other sign symptom which patient may be feeling, but the reason is behind psychiatric, like neurosis, psychosis, or they may be mixed. Neurosis. Neurotic problem are those problems in which the patient, him or herself, is aware of about the problem, about the disease, and the patient himself, herself can seek the advice of a doctor. While on the other hand, in psychosis, the insight is lost. Patient is unaware about his or her problem, and in such cases, usually instead of patient, the attendants are the relatives of the patient. They bring the patient to the doctor for some advice, some management, some treatment. Or there may be some mixed problem also. For example, anxiety is a neurotic problem, insomnia is a neurotic problem, even depression, but some psychotic element may be also there. In such cases, we have to not only treat neurotic aspect, but at the same time we also have to address the psychotic aspect of that particular patient also. So anyhow, common psychiatric problem may be anxiety, insomnia, depression, schizophrenia, even hysterical fits, etc. These are all psychiatric problems. There may be non-psychiatric problem also. For example, epilepsy, Parkinsonism, or even Alzheimer's disease, or some painful state or some surgical procedures, they also produce some nervous system problem. Neurochemistry and neuropsychiatric problem, they have strong relationship with each other. All the neuropsychiatric problems are due to some disturbance in the neurochemistry present in the brain. Transmission of information in the brain central nervous system or even in the peripheral nervous system, that occurs due to the release of neurotransmitter from the center or even from the peripheral sides, which bind to the specific receptor present both in the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. When the neurotransmitter bind to these receptors, obviously these receptors recognize those neurotransmitters, and then those receptors can trigger the intracellular changes. Now let's have a brief outlook about the chemical or the neurotransmitter. There may be some excitatory in nature or inhibitory. Excitatory, for example, glutamate, aspartate, homocysteine, acetylcholine, norepinephrine especially. Almost all these excitatory neurotransmitters, they perform their effects through excitatory ions. For example, they may be allowing more and more sodium and calcium influxes. While the inhibitory chemical and neurotransmitter may be GABA, glycine, dopamine, serotonins. So they are actually operating usually with the inhibitory ions, for example, chloride or potassium. So they will be opening the channels for these ions and producing inhibitory effects. Remember, excitation occurs, as I told you, by opening sodium channel. So there is large positive charge inside the postsynaptic cell. Number one. Number two, if we will inhibit the inhibition, obviously result will be excitation also. So blocking of the chloride or potassium channels or both will produce depressed conduction. That is obviously opposite will occur, that excitation will occur. In the same way, inhibition will be seen due to opening of chloride channels through the postsynaptic neural membrane or due to increased potassium efflux. Or if we inhibit the excitation, so if we inhibit the sodium channel, so obviously this inhibition of excitation will be seen as the inhibitory effect. So there is decreased excitation means inhibitory effect. Another very important acting on various sides on the smooth muscle, etc., but in the neuroside also, nitric oxide. It is usually secreted by the nerve terminals in the brain area, which are responsible for the long-term behavior and responsible for memory. Nitric oxide is operating very important role there. It is synthesized there, but almost immediately as per need, instantly as needed. And then it diffuses into postsynaptic neurons, where it changes intracellular metabolic function and modifies the neuronal excitability for shorter time, for seconds to minutes only. So for the short term effects on the behavior and memory, nitric oxide is important. Another, GABA. GABA acts at GABA receptor and is secreted by the nerve terminals in the spinal cord. Apart from this spinal cord, GABA is acting at the cerebellum, basal ganglia, and many areas of the cortex. So GABA is known as a neuroinhibitory in nature, gamma aminobutyric acid. Serotonin, 5-HT, obviously acts at serotonin receptor, which may vary from 5-HT 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and serotonin is secreted by the nuclei present in the brain stem, and from here it projects to many other brain and spinal cord areas, especially to the dorsal horns of the spinal cord and to the hypothalamus also. Serotonin also controls the hallucination in the person. So important role of serotonin is there when the patient is suffering from hallucinated problem. Remember, serotonin acts as an inhibitor of brain pathway in the cord and in the high region to control the mood and even to cause sleep. So basically what we see, serotonin will be helping to control the psychotic aspect, hallucination like aspect, and also we can use it to modulate pain or to control the mood of the patient or even to induce sleep also. For example, pain. Here obviously we need pain-free drugs which can make the patient pain-free, analgesic. These analgesic drugs are used clinically for controlling pain. For example, important ones are only opioids or opiates and carbamazine. There are so many others also. Those will be discussed separately. Pain due to anything, due to sprain, due to knee injury, even acute myocardial infarction. One of the opioids, morphine or meperidine, what is also named as pethidine, is used to relieve the person from very severe pain of myocardial infarction. It's very, very painful state, remember. There are some opioid peptides present normally physiologically in the body. Methamphetamine, also known as endorphins, leukophilins and dynorphins. These are present in the body and especially released or produced in the body in any painful state, due to which the patient very rapidly is feeling some relief in his pain without even medication. It's our common observation that even after injury, immediately after severe pain, gradually we feel relief in pain, and the major part in that is played by these opioid peptides. They act on the specific receptor, which are mu, delta, kappa. Mu, delta, kappa, all are mainly responsible for the production of analgesia. When these opioid peptides, they will bind to the receptor, they will produce analgesia, loss of pain sensation. Other effects are, for example, for mu, they can produce sedation. So that is common observation. The patient taking opioid, etc., is having feeling of sedation also. Another very important effect through mu is inhibition of the respiratory center, and that is very common. Death can occur of the person with acute toxicity of this opioid due to pressure of the respiratory center. Another important thing is they can slow down the transit of the GIT. Movement of the food from one place to another is slowed down. Decreased movement of GIT, that can lead to increased absorption, especially of the water contents, and that can add into the development of constipation. So that is why it's common observation the person taking opioids is having chronic constipation. Anyhow, delta, similarly analgesia and controlling some hormone neurotransmitter release. Kappa, again analgesia and some psychotomimetic effect, and it also helping in slowing the GIT transit. General anesthesia, important are some gases, hallucinogen, etc., or even partly used propofol, etc. They are used to produce surgical anesthesia. They inhibit the function of excitatory receptors such as just we have seen inotropic glutamate, acetylcholine, or serotonin receptor. These are being inhibited by these general anesthetic agents. And they also enhance the function of inhibitory receptors, such as in increasing the GABA and glycine activity. Obviously, they will inhibit the activity of brain. Local anesthesia. Local anesthetic, they block sodium channel which is operating on the peripheral nerve. So whenever there is action potential production, sodium influx occur. So any painful state is also being produced by the sodium influx. And if we block the sodium channel, like with this local anesthetic, that will prevent the sodium influx, and ultimately neural conduction is also inhibited and decreasing the painful sensation. There is strong relationship between GABA, serotonin, and the symptom of anxiety and insomnia. For example, anxiety. Anxiety is basically an unpleasant state of tension or apprehension, feeling of uneasiness or a fear of that seems to arise from an unknown cause. We usually give anxiolytic, and those are commonly known as sedative in pharmacology. They just calm down the person, they reduce the anxiety. And common examples from benzodiazepine, as other groups, new groups, very important. But still, there are so many anxiolytic which are derived from benzodiazepine especially, and barbiturate can also still can be used. Insomnia, loss of sleep. Obviously, we have to give sleep inducer, and those are known as hypnotics. And again, example, benzodiazepine, barbiturate. And remember here, in low doses, they will just calm down the person, they can produce an effect anxiolytic. In slightly higher doses, they will induce sleep. Same drug, same benzodiazepine, same barbiturate, only the difference of dosage is there. They can produce in low doses anxiolytic, in slightly higher doses hypnotics. Diagrammatically, if we increase certain hypnotic dose, as we increase, gradually effects on CNS are observed more and more. For example, initially there is sedation, disinhibition or anxiolysis. Even anticonvulsant muscle relaxing effects can also be seen with the same dosages with which we are having anxiolytic effect. Remember, slightly increase in dose, patient may go into sleep, hypnotic effect. As we are going to increase the dose, more and more depression of CNS will occur and more other effects will be seen. For example, if we see with the barbiturate red line, it may produce anesthesia. Even blue line indicating the benzodiazepine, they will also produce anesthesia. Okay, but even if we increase the dose, they will not produce further depression of CNS. So above anesthesia, they cannot produce any effects. However, barbiturates can produce depression of the medullary center, even respiratory center, vasomotor center, etc. And even patient may go into coma, and even death can occur with barbiturates. Benzodiazepine cannot produce death. Barbiturates can produce death. This is the basic difference you must keep in mind. Depression. Now remember, this depression is not related to common what we are using in our daily language. I am suffering, I am very much depressed. No, that may be anxiety. Depression is a mood disorder. Mood of the patient is depressed without any apparent reason. There is intense feeling of sadness, hopelessness, and desperation. However, yes, external environment can precipitate this depression, but remember, this depression is a mood disorder. Don't confuse this depression with the anxiety. Up till now, some monoamine hypotheses have been derived for depression. There is an observation that depression is caused by a functional insufficiency. Functional insufficiency means that even the monoamine are present there, but they are not functioning properly. So functional insufficiency of monoamine neurotransmitter and common involved are norepinephrine, serotonin, or both, or at some time even dopamine is also involved in producing depressive symptoms. So what will be the treatment? So obviously we have to give these drugs. Now let's see norepinephrine in the center. We have already studied norepinephrine peripheral, but in the central it also acts on the same adrenal receptor present in the brain and secreted in the brain stem and hypothalamus, etc. Basically, norepinephrine is controlling activity and mood of the person and even producing wakefulness. It's common observation. The moment our sympathetic system is activated, patient is awakened. All sort of lethargic and other symptoms are relieved immediately. Mostly, however, it activates excitatory receptors, except few areas of inhibitory receptor. So norepinephrine is known as an excitatory neurotransmitter at large, except few cases. It maintains mood and reward system. So two things, mood and reward. So decreased activity may precipitate depression. So to treat depression, we will give antidepressant which will increase the activity of norepinephrine and serotonin, like groups monoamine oxidase inhibitors, tricyclic antidepressant, selective serotonin reuptake. We will study later on when we study depression. Or if there is increased norepinephrine activity, they may precipitate mania. So mania is stimulant mood, overactive, talkative, very much flow of ideas. So we have to give antiemetic. They will decrease the activity of nerve, for example, lithium, etc. If there is involvement of some psychotic aspect, we will have to add this antipsychotic also. Also controlling state of arousal. So decreased activity of norepinephrine may precipitate lethargy and sedation. So if there is some pathological lethargy or pathological sedation, narcolepsy, etc., we have to give amphetamine. They will increase the level of norepinephrine and the lethargic attitude will be changed. We have also studied in central nervous system, norepinephrine also modulate cardiovascular system through vasomotor center, controlling and regulating the blood pressure and cardiac function. Now lithium we have studied, we have already seen in chemistry, it's a monovalent in our periodic table, same like sodium, potassium, etc. So when we given, it penetrates the fast voltage sodium channel. It's not a normal inhibitor of our body usually. Always we give from outside. But however, if it will opt the same pathways, same channels which its sister ions, sodium, potassium, etc. So mainly sodium, rapidly fast voltage, sodium channel. So it goes rapidly inside, but however it is not expelled as quickly as sodium by the sodium potassium pump. So it will produce partial depolarization. Psychosis. Remember, it's a thought disorder. Disturbance in thinking. It's a thought disorder basically. There is fixed ideas, fixed thinking. It's a mental disorder characterized by delusions, hallucinations, and thinking or speech disorder. As I told you, psychotic patients are those who have lost their insight, unaware about their problem. As we have seen, monoamine hypothesis in depression, here it's dopamine and serotonin hypothesis. Here there is evidence of excessive dopaminergic and serotonin activity. Dopamine will also act in the central dopaminergic receptor secreted by the neuron present in the subconscious nigra especially. The termination of these neurons is mainly in the striatal region of the basal ganglia. So dopamine is mainly having inhibitory effect. We have seen previously norepinephrine was having stimulatory. Dopamine is having inhibitory, decrease the rate of neuronal firing. It controls some motor activity, so that is why when there is selective loss of dopamine neurons in substantial diarrhea, there will decrease activity, lead to Parkinsonism like symptom. Dopamine also controls the behavioral effects. So its decreased activity may produce depression, and increased activity will produce schizophrenia. So accordingly, in Parkinson's, we will make the deficiency of dopamine. In depression, we will also give, if there is deficiency of dopamine, we will give dopamine. In schizophrenia, there is increased activity, we have to depress the dopamine activity in schizophrenia, opposite. Okay, remember this difference. Antipsychotic may also be known as neuroleptics, antischizophrenic, or major tranquilizer. Neuroleptic simply means a state of immobility having Parkinsonian-like symptom or other extrapyramidal effect. Antischizophrenic-like, which are effective in relieving the symptom of schizophrenia illness, hallucination, illusion, delusion, who are relieving those symptoms. Major tranquilizer, tranquilizing the patient, sedating the patient, and relieving the mainly anxiety and all other excitatory effects of the brain. So that is why this was an old terminology, major tranquilizer, for the antipsychotic, while the previously sedative anxiolytic were known as minor tranquilizer. But nowadays these terminologies have been almost obsoleted. Example of antipsychotic: clozapine, chlorpromazine, haloperidol, etc. We will discuss inshallah later on when we will discuss the antipsychotic. Psychomotor stimulant, psychostimulant, they will also cause wakefulness and euphoria. We also see amphetamine, but cocaine and caffeine, they also produce wakefulness and euphoria-like symptoms. Psychotomimetic are those which are produce hallucination, etc., or psychodysliptics. So drugs like LSD or mescaline and phencyclidine, they cause disturbance in the perception, especially of the visual. Patient is seeing the hallucination through eye, visualization. Unreal things are being seen by the person. Psychotomimetic. Epilepsy. Remember, in epilepsy, seizures are occurring repeatedly in episodic nature and chronically. The repeated episode of seizure chronically. Important, repeated and chronic. Normally, we know excitation was due to excessive discharge of the impulse and spread of impulse through the neuron, and that will lead to produce epilepsy, and there will be repeated episode of seizure chronically. So, in epilepsy, they decrease the excessive discharge and spread. If we want to treat. So, all anti-epileptic will decrease the excessive discharge and spread through anti-epileptic. Glycine and normal inhibitory nature, especially present in the spinal cord. Glutamate secreted by the presynaptic terminals in many sensory pathways of the brain, especially in the cerebral cortex. It is probably causing excitation, as we have seen previously. Anti-epileptics acting through both, enhancing the inhibitory effect, especially through GABAergic transmission, or inhibiting or diminishing the excitatory transmission, like glutamate, etc., or sodium, etc. A third is sodium, like a calcium, like modification of ionic conductance. Parkinsonism. We have already seen in our knowledge from physiology, there is selective loss of dopaminergic neurons. So, there is selective dopamine loss, dopamine decrease. So, symptoms are appearing due to dopaminergic decrease in the Parkinsonism. So, effects on the movement of the body. But reflexly, there is increased cholinergic activity, and there will be impaired mobility due to increased cholinergic activity. So, symptom will be mixture of dopamine decrease and cholinergic increase in nature. There may be resting tremors, rigidity, inability to initiate the movement, then absolutely no movement, akinesia or bradykinesia, slow movement, or postural instability. So, main cardinal feature may be bradykinesia, even hypokinesia, muscular rigidity, resting tremors, abnormal gait and abnormal posture, and dementia. These are the cardinal features of the Parkinsonism. And remember, treatment will be treat the pathology. There was decreased dopamine, we will increase dopamine. There was increased acetylcholine, we will decrease acetylcholine. Okay. Now, acetylcholine actually obviously will be active choline receptor present in the brain. So, largely the motor cortex or even different types of basal ganglia sites. So, male is excited in nature. So, it will maintain behavioral effects. Opposite to norepinephrine, it will depress the arousal, but it increases the learning and improve dementia. So, that is why if there is dementia or loss of memory is there, we will use anticholinesterase, which will inhibit the metabolism of acetylcholine and thus increase the level of acetylcholine in the brain, and will help in the improvement in the symptom of dementia. It also maintains the motor activity, producing tremor, rigidity. So, to control that, we decrease cholinergic activity like anticholinergic in Parkinsonism, which will control the tremors and rigidity produced by the increased cholinergic activity. Alzheimer's disease, a long list of problems, but the basic problem was in the memory, along with other lapses in judgment, problem in completing familiar tasks which he or she was used to do every day, unable to complete. disorientation about the time and space, decreased ability to think abstractly, or misplacing objects, etc., etc. So there usually shifts in personality.